Welcome back to Higher Hertz. My name is Alexis, here today with another violin video for you guys. Today we're going to be talking about how to get a great sound from your bow. So some things that we're going to start with are just how to hold the bow. If you're not already familiar, you can watch How to Hold Your Instrument, which is an earlier video. But I just want to break it down for you just so that there's always that fresh perspective. You always want to make sure your thumb is coming here right by your leather grip. Your middle finger here always goes across from it. That first finger, pointer finger, you kind of want to have it laid on its side. Third finger, ring finger, is going to go close to this little circle here. And then your fourth finger, pinky, is always going to rest on the inside part here of your bow. And if you have some people will play with it a little bit more on top of the bow, but that's just a personal preference. The important thing for getting a really great bow sound is that you want your bow hand to be relaxed and also to have a good grip at the same time. It's active. It's not, just sleeping by the pool or whatever. It is going to be active. The other things to keep in mind that it might seem a little like, what does that even have to do with playing the violin? But you want your whole body to be in a good stance. So you want to have proper posture while you're playing, relaxed shoulders, making sure that your arm isn't tensing up. That's a big one for getting a great bow sound. So you want your arm to be relaxed. You want your bow hand to be relaxed yet active. Okay, so when you're ready to start playing violin, you might notice, oh my goodness, it is so hard to get any kind of good sound on this instrument. I try and try and try, and it just feels like I can't get the sound that I want. So sometimes, or actually something I did a lot growing up, was I would listen to recordings of violinists that I really liked before I would practice. And then I had that really great violin sound in my ear, and it was like, oh, well, I just sound like Hilary Hahn or Itzhak Perlman or whoever your favorite violinist is. And it made it a little bit easier then to get the great bow sound. But starting from scratch, we just went over our bow hold. You always want to make sure to set the bow before you pull on the string. Now, this is really important because if you don't set, sometimes you'll get these kind of like bumps at the beginning, that sort of thing. And we want to avoid that if we can. Now, sometimes, depending on the kind of bowing that you're doing, like maybe you're doing like a staccato, like off the string sort of bowing, even with something like that, you can still start from on the string. And this is going to help you feel more relaxed, and it is almost always going to give you a better bow sound than if you start by throwing the bow on the string, unless you've been practicing that a lot and you're doing it for some kind of showy effect sort of thing. Otherwise, set the bow. Now, when you set the bow, go ahead and set the bow hairs completely flat on the string. It is very common practice to kind of tilt the bow towards the fingerboard, but you don't have to do that. And sometimes you can get a better sound, excuse me, if you do set the bow completely flat on the string, so the bow hair. So you really want to feel like your bow's kind of stuck. You can even hear it a little bit as I am moving my hand. The bow is set. It's ready to go. So then when you're ready to pull the bow, it's important to understand how your arm actually works with what you're doing, well, with how the bow moves. So it's not quite as simple as just, oh, I move my arm out and I move my arm in, because you'll notice as you're doing that, the bow's gonna go like way behind your head and like way over here. So an important thing to kind of keep in mind is how the angle of the bow relates to the violin. So as you set here at the frog and you pull the bow towards the middle, you'll notice that my arm, my upper bicep here, stayed in place pretty much, but the forearm opened out. And you can also see some slight motion going on here in my wrist and hand. So also the weight of the bow is getting transferred a little bit from being really heavy here in the pinky, and it's moving towards more the middle of the hand. You can see kind of some hand motion going on there. So it's important to know what is actually going on with our arm while we're pulling the bow. Okay, so now we're at, I guess that's a little bit more than the middle. So we're at the middle of the bow-ish. We're going to finish this bow. So as you pull towards the tip, now you'll notice my bicep pretty much stayed in the same place. Your shoulder should always stay relaxed. You don't need to bring it or move it anywhere per se. It should pretty much be able to stay relaxed as you're playing. The forearm, my arm has mostly opened up now. There is still a bit of a bend depending on how long your arms are. I'm a bit on the taller side. It might be even further out depending. But you'll also notice that my hand position is pretty much resting now here really heavily on that first finger and towards the thumb. So at the frog, it's more towards your pinky, and then as we move out towards the tip, it moves towards your pointer finger here. So what that looks like is, so you see my arm moving. So it's really a big forearm motion, not too much with the bicep or shoulder, and plenty of hand motion. So again, you want that relaxed hand, but the hand is actually being quite active. So it's something kind of like yoga or stretching, that sort of thing. And of course, it can be a little bit more acrobatic as you get more advanced, but it just should always really stay relaxed as you're going. And this will help you too as you get more advanced and you play more advanced pieces and that sort of thing. As you play long hours throughout the day, any kind of tenseness or that sort of thing can really lead to injury also, which we'll talk about later. Okay, so getting that great bow sound. So now that we understand really like how to move our arm, where the bow goes, all of that sort of thing, the kind of sound that you're trying to get just really comes down to the actual like what is happening while you're bowing. So you can get a great bow sound with all different kinds of bowing styles. So if you're bowing fast, it's important to keep the bow light. Even if it's loud, you can use a lot of bow and make a really great sound still. And that's just by staying really light. My arm feels super awesome. I don't feel any tension, that sort of thing. If you want to go slow, you can play loud or soft. But also with going fast, you may appreciate, in that instance, playing with less of the bow hair. So when we were doing that slower bow sound, the bow hair is pretty flat. But then when we can go faster, you can kind of tilt the stick towards the fingerboard, and it'll kind of make everything a little bit lighter. So then you can imagine if you want to play a slower sound, maybe really go for that full flat hair and let your hand relax into the string. Awesome. So another important concept when we're working on bowing is we never really want to feel like we're pushing into the string. So it all comes back to, again, these arm motions where you really use the weight of your arm. Now, I'm not a terribly large person, so it might seem like, how can you even get a good bow sound if you're not like kind of like using some of your muscle to push in? And honestly, just the weight of your arm alone, that's all the weight you need. Now, there are, of course, some very strong instrumentalists, violinists, who they can be larger, they can get like maybe a bigger sound out of their instrument, but I've seen very petite sized people just from using the weight of their own body and arms and staying relaxed are able to get these really great bow sounds. So we always want to think about pulling the sound out of the instrument. It really is, when you're trying to get a great bow sound, it is about movement. It's not about pressure so much. So when we did the slower bow sound, slower movement, but your arm is still relaxed, so you're able to get a really great sound. You want to go faster? You can just, lift up your arm a little bit and just move the bow faster. Maybe move it towards so that you're having a little less of the bow hair going across the string. So I really hope this video was helpful for you guys for understanding how to get great bow sound. It really all comes back to movement, staying relaxed and yet still moving. And then of course too, if you're feeling a bit lost, listen to some great violinists. There's lots of content out there on YouTube and that sort of thing. So you can always be keeping that really great violin sound in your ear if you're struggling to find it on your own. Thanks so much for watching today, guys. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. I always love hearing what you guys have to say. This was another production with Higher Hertz. My name is Alexis, and I'll see you guys next time.